We cannot find him. I am recording the audio chapter charge guides. Recently. They have become necessary recently. I have work to do. Please let me do it. Welcome to Tape 14, a few words about libraries. A good library is a labyrinth and not a maze. There is intrigue, there is spirituality, there is a sense of finding yourself lost, willing yourself towards the evaporating constraint of time. There is a feeling that there is somewhere else you must be, but only at the edges of your mind, because where else would you wish to be? To be in a library is already to be elsewhere. It is to stand at the edge of the precipice and yet to recognize your place in the world. The library in Surf City is ornately beautiful on the inside. The outside is a shell of an old building, 3 old buildings actually, hastily shoved together with the structural hallways added. It makes, from above, almost the symbol of a triquetra. From the inside, it is more of a trinity knot. The library weaves in and out of itself, in spite of the best efforts from the patrons to keep it on this plane of existence. It seems to struggle with itself and its place, as though seeking a way to activate its power or evaporate completely from a curse. The books do have their library smell, a hint of oak, a brush of tobacco, the barest sense of acid, as though a young child wanted to read and be left to their own devices, but were forced to sit at their dinner table with a book instead. All books in this universe have this smell. Each book's universe has a different smell. But this is not a topic of conversation to have with your charge. I repeat, do not ask your charge about the smells of their books. Fill out certificate N999999595. The attached tearaway postcard is a reminder for you to place on whatever object you consider your bathroom mirror. It is steam and volcano ash proof for your convenience. As all forms and liabilities are filled out, I will remind you that many of the masculine-identified Earth mortals we are charged with enjoy the film Die Hard and the work of modern jazz composer Michael Bublé. Pausing. Still pausing. Pause will end in 3, 2. The Surf City Library, neatly named without homage, does not have a children's section. It has no need for one, for even the children in town would not use it. And that is for the best, since the town itself does not have the capacity to understand the color scheme of a children's section. In fact, the library curation specialist, who does not prefer to be known as a librarian since they do not have a degree in the subject, has never left town and found out what a proper children's section looks like, or anything else, really. Perhaps even so, this curation specialist has never left the library itself at all. Perhaps they are the Icarus of a very small world, or the Minotaur. The library is both their haven and their punishment, their city of Dis, but also their paradise without the influence of Beatrice. No one has ever heard the curation specialist raise their voice loudly, as no one shouts in the library. A shout in a library, listeners, means that something may shout back. The books do not move in any extraordinary way. They are merely books, after all, and the power within them is not physical. But the words and ideas contained within are power. The people of Surf City do take to their reading, though whether it is a pleasure or not is hard to say. The citizens read all manner of books, both voraciously and promptly. Here in Surf City there is no censorship. They are just books to these people who read them. Books in a twisting labyrinth of a former photomat, a former sewing business, and a former shop that was always closed and dark, where nothing lived or survived. Just a shuttered block of nothing, waiting. There is something simple about the specialist's job and life, something almost religious, monk-like. From the outside, it is idyllic and simple. The specialist's only companion is the static of a clock radio that just faintly receives signals for radio stations from Ilman Shore and Astery, towns near enough to Surf City to send radio signals, but not much more. The specialist doesn't seem to use much technology, but they do not eschew it. They have 2 computers in the library, but they are linked to a check-in and check-out system and little more. There is a faint smell on Tuesday afternoons down a particular hallway of laundry detergent. There are rumors that the specialist paints, or that there are photography classes for the gifted in the building, somewhere, though there are never signs of a dark room, nor a light box, nor unnecessary light of any kind. Not warned to stay away from the Surf City Library, nor encouraged to go, Julie enters the space one day. There is no bell nor being to greet her. It does not seem like an offensive or strange place. There is a desk and a computer terminal, hardy, thick, and an off-white, nearly yellow color. Behind it is a thin, feminine-featured person with raven hair. "Mayor Cumberland, to what do I owe the pleasure?" There's something in the drawl of the specialist that halts Julie for just a moment. Their speech is the sound of trapped torture eclipsed just slightly by madness. It is sound that is too flat to chill, but that deep inside echoes a primal fear of loss. The loss of something ephemeral, something that many years ago was taken and cannot be recovered, since the emotion for what was taken is itself lost to time, and for those who trouble to think on it, will do as such until their deathbed. The specialist reeks of oil, pleasant enough looking though. They wear a little lace about their collar, but with a blazer that could read male or female, or neither, or both. The gaze of the librarian is somewhere between judgment and merriment, expectation. "I would like to see about the history of the town." "You know all that history, though. You've won awards for it in school." "I'd like a refresher, now that I have the job." "Of your dreams. Ah, yes, follow me. Stay close at hand. Books can play tricks on the mind. You wouldn't want to end up in athletics, would you?" The specialist's tone has a sense of humor to it, though admittedly dry. Julie has an urge to reach out to the walls as they walk. The shelves in the hallways are slim. The books are an inescapable thing. But though they lead, Julie can feel the gaze of the specialist upon them. The specialist has a limp, Julie notices, or a cadence that betrays something unintended. Julie spends the walk in thought, trying to remember. Something at the edges of her mind about the specialist. A thing maybe she knows, or maybe who she was knows, or perhaps all of her across the span of the universes knows. And the specialist catches her thinking as such, though not stopping to comment, leading on. "Are you all right?" Julie asks, trying to preempt the question from the other direction. "Why wouldn't I be? It's a beautiful day." "Oh, you had lunch outside?" They stop. They turn. They look at Julie as though Julie has grown 3 heads in a moment. What an odd thing to say. The way they respond takes Julie's breath away. Julie feels that she has broken a rule which may doom her, and not knowing what or why makes the feeling grow a chill across her forearms, manifest as goosebumps. "Which is your favorite book?" she asks desperately, trying to ignore the chill with questions and polite, non-essential chit-chat. "This week? The Opera of Carmelita, a Spanish dancer who dances forever in a jewel box, cursed to watch herself and to only watch others through a mirror." "I've never heard of it." "Of course not. You don't read in esoteric Latin. You weren't very good at it in class." "You remember our classes together," Julie lies, trying to piece together a moment in time from the alternate her. "Easy to remember many things. I have many hours a day in my fortress. Ah, but the beauty of a library. I trust you will remember funding for us in your annual budget." "Us?" "Colloquial term." "Of course." Julie says, and she feels as though any other response would have stolen her breath away. This room, the specialist says lightly. They unlock the door with a key, produced almost out of sight with a flourish. The books, the maps, the memories belong here. No checkouts. Their voice hisses and their eyes blaze. Of course, Julie says with a sharp nod. But can I visit any time? Knowledge is power. I am at the desk if you need anything. Julie waits, still inside the room, until they are a shadowy form moving back down the hallway. She props a chair against the door, as there doesn't seem to be a locking mechanism on this side of the space. The room is burnt caramel colored and dust motes are lazily visible about the space, though the smells of the room is neither heavy nor oppressive. Newspaper stands and microfiche pepper the room. The newspapers waterfall down the side on both the east or west walls, as though water contained solely by wooden cubes. Listener, please fill out archive form attached labeled newspaper. Please direct yourself to the diagram and correctly label the parts to achieve Certificate F. There is no pause here, as you are expected to complete this exercise in solitude, and with good discretionary tactics that will dissuade you from any panic in case of painful or unknown newsprint-based memories. The newspapers seem the easiest way to start. There are plenty of spaces to begin with, but picking up the first newspaper shows that nothing worth having comes easily, at least not for Julie. They at first glance seem like normal newspapers with headlines and bylines and pictures, though the pictures do all have faces with dead eyes. But they don't follow a sequence order. They jump forwards and backwards, and some parts of the pages are blank. Places where there should be ads are block printed in black with a white scrawling font questioning the nature of the world and the universe, and even of the products itself that were likely inked over. There is a sound, something crawling outside the window. Julie catches a face of some children stuck in time playing a perpetual game of Ring Around the Rosie, and she is so startled that she drops the newspaper. As the newspaper falls to the floor, something nearby but outside the room does the same. It is thicker and thunks softly to the floor. Thunk. It beckons Julie. She peeps for the moment, craning her head as gently and with the least amount of suspicion possible to the right and to the left. She sees no one in the hallway, no shadows, no noises, not even the telltale sign of someone taking breath to hold in, to gently evaporate in the lung. Absent-mindedly, she doesn't realize that she had been clutching the fallen paper until she exits the room, and 4 steps later realizes she is not holding it anymore. She just barely turns her head in the hallway. There is nothing. There is stillness. But there is the sound and feel of magic. It is wrong magic, though. It is magic that is so non-existent and secret and so dark that it seems to have no label of darkness to it. The memories of the world are trapped in that room, and Julie does not know how wise it may be to free them. There are books just tucked along the side of the wall in low rows near the threadbare carpet. They are red leather spined with gold leaf. Years in tiny print. Surf City Secondary and Surf City Accreditation Senior School. The covers shimmer in the low light. They are dark blue or gray. It's hard enough to tell which, but they are well dusted. The year and the high school are embossed in soft gold in the binding and the cover. Astery High School class of some year which is scratched as to be meaningless is represented here as well. It's hard to imagine, based on the crowd, that Surf City would need its own schooling system, but Julie freely admits lack of knowledge about children. Flipping open the yearbook, though, she hadn't expected much. She had expected innocuous, grainy, black and white shots of a building, at least. But there are no grinning or stoic slotted small grid pictures with names of the town's children at the time. There are merely pages of something called the glockenspiel hour, rows of tiny dots that seem more music notes than braille. They are gentle, frail things that are just worked to the innards of the page without cutting too far in. She hears then a set of bells and looks up. The goo creature stands far down the hallway, at some sort of table. They are gone again in a blink, though this time they have raised their hand-like appendage, reached out to Julie. She looks back down to discover a few of the chipped tiny dots in the pages now have dark red markings on them. Perhaps a trail. Perhaps answers. The specialist does not notice her nor say goodbye. They are not at their desk, but Julie power walks with the yearbook clutched hard to her chest, hidden as possible beneath her mayoral jacket. She wonders if this is how all checkouts are. But the specialist was elsewhere, waiting. It was near enough the end of the day, and what the specialist prefers is night. And night always comes for the specialist. Sweet night, a sweet damsel for a specialist. And night holds so many beautiful rituals to perform. The specialist's fingers dip into red, or as close to red as they can get. It has been a long time since they have yearned for a true red, a red they have never seen. The specialist flexes their fingers gently, as if trying to will the red into the very pores of their fingers. At the last minute they strike violently onto the canvas, painting with red until they're pleased, knowing how it will dry in layers, practiced. It is not yet done, but the space where the signature will go is prepared enough, and it feels charmingly provocative to sign it before it's finished. M-A-C-E, the letters go. Mace. The librarian curation specialist who lives alone feels the letters in their heart. They are confusion, thrill, terror, and as always, a new skull from the supply that provides a masterful, primal red. Surf City is an audio work of John MacDonald and John MacDonald Productions. It is meant for entertainment purposes only, and is not meant to advise anyone on lifestyle, health, or spiritual/philosophical issues of their or any time. All opinions expressed are held by the characters and in some cases the creator of Surf City and Surf City Donuts, John MacDonald. Season 2's cosmic narrator is Jack Wyckes.